Welcome to our teaching today. We are Abundant Grace Church. I am Bishop Ramon de Maria, and I'm the pastor of Abundant Grace Church. The last time that we met, the subject was the terrors of hell. Now today I will go further along and speak on the necessity of hell. Why hell is necessary. You know, my beloved, most who scoff at hell today probably do so for several reasons. The primary reason is that they have a desire to follow their own path of sin without having their consciences troubled about the consequences of their actions. They don't want to hear that what they are doing is wrong. They don't want to hear that their sin will be punished. I can hear someone say, but isn't eternal torment in hell inconsistent with a merciful and loving God? How could a good God punish people in hell forever? Beloved, a misunderstanding of the character of God and the nature of sin can easily lead to such questions. So, let me bring this up again in a question. Why is hell necessary? Well, let's examine several reasons for the necessity of hell. Number one, the difficulty most people have in understanding the necessity of hell is related to an incomplete and inadequate understanding of both how awful sin is and how glorious God is. We do not see what a great evil is in the least sin, nor do we understand God's holiness, His justice, and His wrath. If we saw sin as the greatest evil in the world and realize that every sin is a rejection of God's rule over us, a sneering at Him, a shaking of our fist in His face, and a hurling of waste at Him, we will begin to understand a small bit of what our sin is like to God. Every time we sin, my beloved, we either set ourselves or a pet lust up in our hearts as a rival God. Beloved, sin rejects the Creator as God and sets up the creature in His place as being above God, in other words. If we could comprehend the holiness of God and what it means to be holy, pure, perfect, upright, and untainted by the least sin, we would actually have a better idea of why God hates sin so much. Absolute holiness cannot tolerate the least sin. In the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 13, we read, "Thou art of pure eyes then to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity." So, my beloved, if we could understand the glorious holiness and purity of God, and also the abominable nature of sin more, then we would have no problem with the absolute necessity of hell. Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 9 reads, "The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" See, beloved, the human heart is sick. The human heart is wicked. The human heart is deceitful. The corruption of the heart causes us to be deceived about the awareness of sin, as well as many other things. Point 2. God's infinite nature. We have to understand God's infinite nature. See, in understanding what our sin is really like, we must view it through the eyes of God. God is an infinite, eternal being, and we cannot bring Him down to our level. Every act of sin is committed against an infinite, holy God. In every act of sin, we dethrone God and set ourselves above God. In every sin, this question is the issue. Whose will shall be done? God's will or man's will? Now, man by sin sets his own will above the Lord's, and so kicks God as filth under his feet, which means above or less than who He is. A single act of sin committed against a holy, infinite God deserves nothing more than infinite punishment. It is an infinite evil to offend an infinite God even one time. Point 3. God's divine justice. Even one sin against God calls for God to vindicate His name and His justice by punishing it as fully as it deserves. God can and will vindicate His justice. He promises to do so, as we read in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 19. "Leave room for the wrath of God, for it is written, Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord." My beloved, one of the greatest preachers that ever lived, who was none other than Jonathan Edwards, he wrote this: "The glory of God is the greatest good. It is that which is the chief end of creation. It is of greater importance than anything else. But this is one way wherein God will glorify Himself. as in the eternal destruction of ungodly men, he will glorify his justice. Beloved, know that God will appear as a just governor of the world. The vindictive justice of God will appear strict, exact, awful, and terrible, but also glorious. If you were to die today, where would you spend eternity? Have you asked God for forgiveness? Have you repented from your sin? If not, you will be judged by God and be found guilty because of sin, sinfulness, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, lust of the ears. You will have to receive a punishment from a holy, supreme, sanctified God. Do you want to face him in judgment as your friend or your judge? See, God set up hell. There is such a place, and sin will be punished. The thing is that how will you fare when you stand before God? So my beloved, there is a necessity of hell, and hell is the ultimate punishment for unrepented sin. If you have never repented of your sinfulness and accepted Christ as your Savior and Lord, please think about doing so. To find out how, you can email me at abundant.grace@att.net. That's abundant.grace@att.net. And I will help you to accept Christ as your Savior and Lord. Please, my beloved, take seriously your final destination, whether it be heaven, whether it be a place of torment, which is engulfed in terror. Beloved, there are the terrors of hell. Please, don't go there. Don't forget, you can contact me by email at abundant.grace@att.net. Thank you for being here with me today, for listening to this topic, the necessity of hell. Please continue to listen as time goes on, as I continue to speak about the terrors of hell, one part at a time. God bless you. I'm Bishop Ramon D. Maria, and I'm the pastor of Abundant Grace Church.